So good afternoon, everyone. This is Pastor Marquette Curl, Senior Pastor of the Rock Kyle. I want to thank you so much for joining in today for our Tuesday tip, our broadcast that we do at noon on every Tuesday, where I just take a few moments to share with you some things that God has put in my heart to try to encourage some of you out there to continue in the fight of faith, to continue moving forward in spite of opposition, to continue moving forward when things aren't quite as clear as you would like for them to be. So we usually take about 15 minutes on every Tuesday to just kind of talk through a few things on your lunch hour. I know that your time is very, very precious. So I do not take your time for granted. So I just want to thank everyone for tuning in on their lunch hour on today. I will not be with you very long. We normally spend about 10 to 12 minutes just kind of talking through some things that God has placed in my heart on today. I want to make sure that you go ahead and invite your followers in. Those of you that have already logged in, please invite your followers in. I believe that if you are on an iPhone, I believe it's left to right. And if you're on an Android phone, I believe it's swiping from the bottom to the top to invite your followers in. So we'll give everybody a few more minutes to join in on today. Hello, Pastor Ted Douglas, who is streaming in on today. God bless you, man of God. Thank you for tuning in on today, praying for you and what God is doing in your ministry and where God has planted you, praying that God will prosper you where you are. So I want to give everyone else a few moments to join in on today. I know that everyone's on their lunch hour, running around at a busy time at noon. So I'll try to give everybody a few moments to join in. So I'm just thankful for what God is doing. I'm thankful for the ability to be able to use technology to be able to connect with people, to encourage people, but most importantly to make sure that this good news of the gospel of the kingdom is able to go all around the world as a witness. Because we know that we're living in perilous times. We know that we're living during the end times. And so technology is such a wonderful thing when it's used properly to be able to connect with people and to be able to, provide a word for people. So it's a wonderful, wonderful thing. So I'm going to give everybody a few more moments to stream in, to get logged in. Of course, the way things work on Periscope, there's no like button on Periscope. The way that you like things on Periscope is just by tapping the screen. You have the ability to tap the screen as many times as you would like. By tapping the screen, it's basically a like button. So tapping the screen allows the status on Periscope to change, because it means that the more hearts that a follower has in their profile, the easier it is for people to find them, because that means that people are liking some of the stuff that they're saying. So as we're sharing on today, there may be some things that I say that may bless you. Just tap your screen. Like I said, there's no limit to the number of times you can tap your screen. You can tap the screen the whole time I'm talking. So we want to give everybody a couple more seconds to join in. Won't be long with you very long today, because I understand that time is very, very precious and you take the time to join me. So I want to go ahead and get started. You saw the title of my Periscope on today was Junk in Your Trunk. And that's kind of an old school saying or an older saying. But whenever you would travel back in the day, before suitcases and bags and garment bags were real popular, the way people traveled were very, very large trunks. And these trunks were very large. They were very bulky. They had a key on them. It made it, it's meant to carrying large amounts of items. But the more items that you had in your trunk, then the more difficult it was to carry it around, because it was extremely, extremely heavy. So when you put heavier things in there, it made the whole trunk heavier. When you put extra things in there, it made it heavier. And so if you were trying to move around, if you have a desire to move around at a very quick pace, it would be very difficult to move with that big trunk, because there's so many things in there that are weighing it down. And you're not putting the trunk on wheels. It was being carried with little straps on the end, so it's not something that could be rolled around. It was something that had to be carried. And so the objective was to be able to hey, Brother Walter, the objective is to try to lighten the load as much as you can, because you knew you had to carry this trunk around. And so when we think about our Christian walk, and we think about the things that God talks to us about, in particular in Luke chapter 9, when Christ is commissioning the 12 to go out, and he tells them, take nothing with you. He basically tells them to pack light. Take nothing with you. Take money bag, knapsack, the tunic on your body. That's the only thing I want you to take. I don't want you to take anything with you because I want you to be able to move from house to house, from town to town, from city to city. He says that if you go into a house, they don't receive you, shake the dust off your feet, keep it moving. And so therefore, what we have to really understand is that over a period of time in life, we accumulate a lot of junk in our trunk. We accumulate a lot of things that hinder us from moving forward in God. These things may not just be physical clothing items or furniture. When I'm talking about junk in your trunk, I'm talking about things that have gotten into your heart, things that have taken root that make it difficult for you to move forward in the things of God. It could be unforgiveness that you have against a loved one, against a previous spouse, against someone you were in a previous relationship with. It may even be with yourself. It could be bitterness that you have based upon things didn't go the way you wanted them to go. And that bitterness may be actually aimed towards God because God didn't do the things the way that you thought it was going to be done. You had a plan. And things didn't go according to your plan. And because it didn't go according to your plan, you felt like God did the old okie doke with you. And that was never God's plan. That was your plan. But you become a little bitter because things didn't work out the way that you want them to work out. Maybe the things in your trunk is anger, where you're angry about life. You're angry about the situations. You're angry about the season that you're in. You're angry with the people around you. You feel like people have done you wrong and taken advantage of you. You're angry with God because God didn't respond when you wanted him to respond. So you've got this anger that's built up in your heart. You're frustrated. You're anxious. You got all of these things that have now built up in your trunk. And now that God says, listen, I need for you to do this. I need for you to move. When I speak, I need you to move. I need you to speak to that person. I need you to go out and make this impact in the community. But you hesitate because you can't move as quickly as you used to because you've got so much junk that's accumulated in your trunk. So it's important for us to understand how we've got to lighten our load. We got to lighten our emotional and spiritual load. We've got to get some of the things off of us that hinder us and slow us down because life is challenging. I'm not going to sit here and try to make it seem like life is easy or that I've got this life thing all figured out. I don't. I'm learning just like you. However, I trust God. I trust him for what he's doing. And when he speaks and he tells me to do something or he speaks through my man of God, then I try to move and do what it is that God is saying. But sometimes it may be difficult because of past hurts, past issues, past struggles or things that slow me down a little bit. So therefore, it's important for us to understand if we're going to stay current with the move of God, if we're going to stay current with the times and the seasons of God, then we've got to be able to move when he says move. We look at the story of in Exodus 17, where the children of Israel have been delivered from Egyptian bondage. And God said that he was a cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night. And says that, he was with them and they had to move and they had to move at a quick pace. And, because when the cloud moved, then God moved. When the pillar of fire moved, you had to be willing to move. And so you would think that these people that are experiencing these things, being led by Moses, you would think that they would be able to move at a moment's notice and everybody stuck with it and everybody stayed with the group. However, Paul tells us in 1 Corinthians 10 that there were some people that God was not well pleased with and their bodies were scattered in the desert, which means that some people didn't keep up. Some people didn't stay current. Some people may have had too much junk in their trunk. So therefore, when he said move, they didn't move. They had too much stuff in their tent during this time and they couldn't move when God said move. So therefore, I ask you today, what things are you holding on to that are keeping you from really, really moving when God says move? What past hurts? What past pains? What past struggles are you using as a badge of courage to keep you from doing what God says to do? Pastor, what do you mean by that? How can I hold that as a badge of courage? The things that we hold on to that we really don't want deliverance from because we use as an excuse to not do what God tells us to do. God, I would do that. However, that I struggle with this and that. God, I would do it, but that people may not receive me because I've got this issue and I've got that issue. What are are the things that are holding you back? What are the things that you're holding on to that you're keeping in that trunk for a rainy day to be able to use it to be able to not do what God has called you to do? Those are the things that we've got to make sure that we get rid of. So, Pastor, how do I lighten my load? How do I make sure that I pack a little bit lighter and get some of this junk out of my trunk? First thing you got to do is you got to learn how to be content. Paul says, I've learned to live abased, I've learned to live abound, but all things I've learned to be content, which means that Paul understood the importance of living in the moment and learning to be content. Not striving to keep up with someone else, not striving to have what other people have, because you don't know what things they had to go through to get those things, but really learning how to be content. When you learn to be content, then you can be at peace with the season that you're in. When you learn to be content, when things are good, you're fine. When things are bad, you're fine. You don't get too low with your lows, you don't get too high with your highs. And that's important to understand. So therefore, you can begin to lighten your load by learning to be content. The second thing that you can do very quickly is you've got to learn how to let things go. You've got to learn how to let stuff go. Whether it is physically letting things go. I just recently moved and we had to let some stuff go, which means if we didn't get rid of some stuff, it was going to make our move go a lot longer. And I didn't want the move to go a lot longer and it become any more frustrating than it was. So we had to get rid of some stuff. We had to let some stuff go. The season had passed for some of that stuff. So we had to let it go. What things are you holding on to that you need to let go? Completely just let it go. Give it over to God. I know that they hurt you. I know that they did you wrong. I know that they took advantage of you. However, let it go. Because that excess baggage that you're carrying, that junk that you're keeping in your trunk is slowing you down and keeping you from doing the things that God has called you to do. So I challenge you on today. Once we get off this broadcast, do a little inventory and ask yourself, ask God and pray to God and say, God, I want you to search my heart right now. And anything that I'm holding on to that's going to slow me down from being in step with you, Lord, take that away. Allow me now to be able to move forward and not have that particular issue that is slowing me down, because I don't care what happens in this season. I just want to make sure that, whatever God is doing, I don't want him to do it without me, which means I got to be able to stay in step and in tune with the move of God, the voice of God, and the movement of God if I want to make sure that I am there. So I challenge you on today, do a little inventory of the junk in your trunk and learn how to lighten your load a little bit. So I pray that you were blessed by our few moments on today. Like I said, didn't want to take up very much of your time, but I did want to try to share some things with you on today. I pray that you were blessed by the word on today. Please make sure that after this broadcast is over, you can go back on Periscope and share it for the next 24 hours. Also, I'll be loading this broadcast onto my YouTube channel, Marquette Curl Ministries, and you can go to YouTube and check it out there as well. So once again, thank you so much for joining me on today. I look forward to each Tuesday spending time with you. As always, please be praying for me, and I will continue to pray for you. God bless you. Have a great day.